David, by God's direction, goes up to Hebron, where he is made king over the tribe of Judah. Abner, the captain of Saul's army, makes Saul's son Ishbosheth the king over the other 11 tribes of Israel. And we have a civil war. Verse 1. In the course of time, David inquired of the Lord, "Shall I go up to one of the towns of Judah?" he asked. The Lord said, "Go up." And David asked, "Where shall I go?" "To Hebron," the Lord answered. After this refers to the time after the deaths of Saul and Jonathan and the period of mourning for them. Now that Saul is out of the picture, David wants to know what to do. And he asks the Lord, "Shall I go up?" Why did he ask that question? He is in Philistine country, Saul is dead, and David is to be the next king. What should this next move be? He waited until he received his instructions from the Lord. David by now had learned quite clearly that he must wait on the Lord for direction. God told him to go up to Hebron. Hebron is located in the south of the land, not far from the Philistine border. God is telling him to move cautiously. He is not to go up and arbitrarily take over Israel, but to move up into the land to make himself available. Verse 2. So David went up there with his 2 wives, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. When David headed for Hebron, he took with him the 2 women who were his wives at this time. Perhaps you're asking, does God approve of a man having 2 wives? No, obviously no. This matter will cause David a great deal of trouble later on. Verse 3 now. David also took the men who were with him, each with his family, and they settled in Hebron and its towns. David's loyal followers came with him and settled their families in the cities of Hebron. Verse 4. Then the men of Judah came to Hebron, and there they anointed David king over the house of Judah. Now that David has made himself available, the men of his own tribe come and anoint him king over Judah. Verse 5. He sent messengers to the men of Jabesh Gilead to say to them, "The Lord bless you for showing this kindness to Saul, your master, by burying him." David does a very wise thing. The men who buried Saul were devoted to him, and now David thanks them for it. David has a great respect for the anointed of the Lord. He had 2 opportunities to kill him and make himself king, but he did not do it. David's good points are often passed over because his sin seems to obscure them. It's like a cloud that covers the sky and shuts out the sunshine of his life. In many respects, David was a wonderful man. Afterward, he paid for his sin every day of his life. However, here, right now, David complimented the men of Jabesh Gilead. Verses 6 and 7. May the Lord now show you kindness and faithfulness, and I too will show you the same favor because you have done this. Now then, be strong and brave, for Saul your master is dead, and the house of Judah has anointed me king over them. He asked for their support and devotion to him as king, even as they had given it to Saul. Notice he is moving in a very diplomatic and commendable manner at this time. We should recognize the fact that both Saul and Jonathan had sons, and one of them would have been the normal one to come to the throne had not God intervened. Abner, who had been captain of Saul's hosts, moves immediately to make one of them king. Notice what he did. Verses 8 and 9 of 2 Samuel chapter 2. Meanwhile, Abner, son of Ner, the commander of Saul's army, had taken Ishbosheth, son of Saul, and brought him over to Mahanaim. He made him king over Gilead, Ashuri, and Jezreel, and also over Ephraim, Benjamin, and all Israel. Here is the beginning of the division of the kingdom which will come after the reign of Solomon when Jeroboam leads a rebellion. This is the first fracture. At first, David is made king over the southern region, that is Judah, but the northern tribes make Ishbosheth, a son of Saul, their king. Verses 10 and 11. Ishbosheth, son of Saul, was 40 years old when he became king over Israel, and he reigned 2 years. The house of Judah, however, followed David. The length of time David was king in Hebron over the house of Judah was 7 years and 6 months. There is an interval of civil war between the northern kingdom and David's kingdom, Judah in the south. It depleted the resources and energy of the nation. It was indeed a very tragic thing. Verses 12 and 13. Abner, son of Ner, together with the men of Ishbosheth, son of Saul, left Mahanaim and went to Gibeon. Joab, son of Zeruiah, and David's men went out and met them at the pool of Gibeon. One group sat down on one side of the pool and one group on the other side. Abner and Joab were attempting to negotiate a solution to prevent a civil war. Now let's read on, verses 14 to 16. Then Abner said to Joab, "Let's have some of the young men get up and fight hand to hand in front of us." "All right, let them do it," Joab said. So they stood up and were counted off. 12 men for Benjamin and Ishbosheth, son of Saul, and 12 for David. Then each man grabbed his opponent by the head and thrust his dagger into his opponent's side, and they fell down together. So that place in Gibeon was called Helkath Hazurim. Abner said, "Let the young men come together in battle." Joab agreed, and this was the way they were planning to settle the issue. Verse 17 says, "The battle that day was very fierce, and Abner and the men of Israel were defeated by David's men." David is a veteran of many campaigns by now. He is not the innocent little shepherd we had met at first. He has now spent time hiding in the caves and dens of the earth, and he has collected men of war around him. He is rugged, tough, and strong for this type of warfare. So his men are able to win a victory over Abner and his host, an army of superior numbers. Now I want to call your attention to something that took place, which will play a prominent part later on. Abner was followed by Asahel. Asahel was a brother of Joab, who was David's captain. Abner was Saul's captain. Let's read from verse 18. The 3 sons of Zeruiah were there, Joab, Abishai, and Asahel. Now Asahel was as fleet-footed as a wild gazelle. He chased Abner, turning neither to the right nor to the left as he pursued him. Abner looked behind him and asked, "Is that you, Asahel?" "It is," he answered. Zeruiah, by the way, was a sister of David, and she had these 3 outstanding sons, Joab, Abishai, and Asahel. We now know that Asahel was taking after Abner, and he is not a match for him at all, and Abner warns him. Verse 21, Then Abner said to him, "Turn aside to the right or to the left. Take on one of the young men and strip him of his weapons." But Asahel would not stop chasing him. You see, he was the fleet-footed gazelle, but not so much of a warrior. Again Abner warned Asahel, this is verse 22, "Stop chasing me. Why should I strike you down? How could I look your brother Joab in the face?" But Asahel refused to give up the pursuit. So Abner thrust the butt of his spear into Asahel's stomach, and the spear came out through his back. He fell there and died on the spot, and every man stopped when he came to the place where Asahel had fallen and died. Abner warned him to stop his pursuit. Asahel refused, and finally Abner turned around and drove a spear through him. Abner killed the brother of Joab. That means that in Joab's heart there will be bitterness, hatred,